Hello Chipmunk and Chipette fans, sorry it's been a while since my last Chipmunk related video, but welcome back to another episode of Alvin and The Chipmunks Elaborations. My name is Grandy Tamias, and today's topic will be the design aesthetic of the Chipmunks and Chipettes in the 20th Century Fox films. Over the years, the Chipmunks in animation have had numerous designs, even within the same generation. Many of us may think of the classic Chipmunk design as this or this, but it may surprise you to know that on the earliest album artwork, the first comic, and the puppets from the Ed Sullivan Show, Alvin, Simon, and Theodore looked essentially like actual chipmunks, more so than the 20th Century Fox films. And yet, for the past nearly 14 years, these are what the vast majority of people think of when they hear the name Alvin and the Chipmunks. But why is that? Is it because an entire generation of fans grew up on these designs? In large part, perhaps, but I think there's something else at play. Something that pushes this question over the edge into much more complexity. Because I know a lot of fans who don't prefer the storytelling in these films, and yet still consider these designs to be the best. I think the real question we should be asking is, what is so impressive about these designs that they transcend the stories they were created for? Well, Hollywood sure had its fair share of heavily redesigned animated characters for live-action films in the 90s and 2000s, and still today to an extent. But in recent years, there's been a push to have movie versions of characters look more like their original counterparts. Sonic the Hedgehog in particular was forced into such a situation, and while I do think Chipmunk fans would have a similar outcry like what happened with Sonic if the first live-action Alvin and the Chipmunks film were released today, I'm not so sure having the Chipmunks look like they were plucked straight out of the 60s or 80s cartoon would have been the best design for them. Alvin and the Chipmunks, in my opinion, is one of the few franchises where I can say that the old designs in large part are not universally compatible in every medium. Maybe some people would have been fine with it, but a photorealistic 3-foot-tall chipmunk that looks like this probably would have taken audiences out of the experience. I mean, it's easier to accept in animation that this is what chipmunks look like in their world, but in live action, these being chipmunks is less apparent due to the lack of features carried over from the real animal. This is where the films, in my opinion, helped the franchise going forward by standardizing the lateral stripe that we now see in the 2015 series. It was also debatable whether the chipmunks in the past had tails, but they've been a prominent feature on their designs from the films onward, which I think further makes their designs less human-like. However, that is the extent of the similarities between the designs of that series and the films. In fact, the film designs are very much outliers in the fact that they are not entirely bipedal, or stand and walk on two legs. They very frequently locomote by scampering across the floor or climbing up onto things that would put them closer to eye level with a human. The world was basically their jungle gym, literally and figuratively. They still are able to run bipedally, which is honestly quite surprising given how short their legs are. I mean, when their legs are so short that their crotches almost touch the ground, I hope they don't run into any small rock and get hit right in the acorns. Their ears and noses also twitch when they sense something, and sometimes they'll even tuck their hands close to their chest pointing down. Overall, the animalistic appearance gives them some additional features they can use to express emotions. Honestly, I could be here all day going into the intricacies of movieverse chipmunk anatomy and if it would be biomechanically possible, as if this were some speculative zoology project like Afterman, which was the subject of my last video, go and check it out. But for all intents and purposes, I want to say, yeah, I want to believe that they'd be able to exist as a species the way they are designed like this. Maybe that's just me. I know not everyone cares about the science, but the animalistic designs of the characters, in my opinion, shows us that the world of chipmunks in the universe of these films is a wild one. As far as we know, these were the only 6 individuals of their species, whatever their species is taxonomically described as, to have made the transition to life in a human-dominated world. This franchise has never really delved deep into the realistic ramifications of how humans and talking chipmunks could coexist, but the movies are the closest thing we've got to that. We got to see a classic fish out of water scenario in the first film, with Alvin, Simon, and Theodore adding chipmunk euphemisms to things like assuming that they would need to be storing food for winter. Heck, I kind of wish that they had taken that a step further by showing us more of their life in the forest. You could fill up an entire prequel movie about that. They have qualities like those you'd find in humanity, so they wouldn't be savages. We could see them in their element, being graceful and doing what comes naturally in their intended habitat. Of course, they lost that edge by the time of Chipwrecked, as Brittany points out, but let's get back to talking about the designs themselves. Like I said earlier, I don't think going all in on the original designs, essentially making them one-to-one replications of the cartoons, would have been such a good idea. and I think the designs we got have aged better than people give them credit for. Not to mention, they were brought to life with CGI very well. In the first 3 films, they were rendered by the now-defunct Rhythm and Hues, which, looking back on it now, their fur had a little bit of a shine to it in some angles, but in Road Chip, I talked a little bit about this in my 5th anniversary retrospective, but Weta Digital, having already had the Middle-earth films under their belt, did such a phenomenal job making the Chipmunks look real, so much so that any criticism towards this film about it being a lame CGI mess is factually wrong. Lame and a mess, that's debatable if they're talking about the plot, in which case I would have to disagree to a certain extent, but in the CGI, I mean, just look at it. It speaks for itself. We get several extreme close-ups of the chipmunks in this movie, where you can even pick out individual filaments of fur, and it acts so well with the lighting and physical environment. Even the Chipettes got this treatment, despite their lack of screen time. I wouldn't know how to animate them moving, nor do I have the rendering farm of a major studio, but I just want to have the files of these Weta Digital chipmunks. Please tell me if someone in the industry kept them. They should never be deleted. The films themselves may fade into pop culture obscurity eventually, but the CGI character designs, those will be recognizable for a lot longer. They're not quite meme status, not now at least, but the internet is a large part of why I think these designs have resonated with so many people. There are more pieces of fan art of this incarnation of the Chipmunks than any other version. People draw or photo edit their own original characters with these designs, and it proves just how versatile they are. I don't agree with or condone the kind of chipmunk fan art that anyone under the age of 18 should not see, but other than that, I think the movieverse designs can adapt to whatever situation the artist depicts, whether it be something happy and very child-friendly, or something that can be taken seriously. With the photo edits in particular, it can really challenge artists' editing capabilities to create something that looks just as convincing as the real thing. By the way, I gotta give a shout out to a friend of mine here on YouTube named MoshPossRen for letting me use some of her chipmunk OCs for this video. Go check out her channel. She has a tutorial on how to make chipmunk edits and does some animated stories with them. Link to her channel will be in the description. All in all, the chipmunk designs were the best thing about these flawed movies and are probably what people are going to remember more than the films themselves. These chipmunks may be small, but the impact this design has had is big. And there's just something oddly compelling about seeing these chipmunks, with their human-like qualities, being trapped in these little bodies that weren't designed for the human world. If they were the dominant species and we hadn't evolved past Australopithecus, the world would look a lot different. I guess we should be glad that there's only 6 of them, or else this franchise would have turned into Planet of the Chipmunks. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think these are the best chipmunk designs? Why or why not? Don't forget that you're also welcome to leave a like and subscribe, and doing so will let me know if you want more videos like this. If you would like to see previews of upcoming videos, or just interact with me and other fans of this channel, I have a Discord server linked in the description, where you can also suggest topics for future videos. I would also appreciate it if you could share this video with other chipmunk fans you may know, as that will help the growth of this channel and help spread the knowledge of this video's topic. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and thank you for your time.